have Christopher Morse back with us on Red Ice Creations Radio. Chris has a few things lined up for us today's program. We are going to explore different meditations, the deeper implications of the present, remembering oneself, the truth of our divine heritage, the difference between book knowledge and inner discovery, to name just a few there. And I think Chris was with us about a year ago now, so it's nice to have you back on the show again, Chris. How are you, and how are things over at creativecosmos.org?
Well, things are great. I feel great. Glad to be back on the air with you. I was just looking at a world map before we connected here, and I was looking at how we just connect across the Atlantic. Right, we're actually, if you draw a line right along one of those currents, we could practically make a line right from where I am to where you are. It's kind of cool to think about our range of communication these days, and just the kind of world we live in, all interconnected and aware of each other and of all time and everything that's ever happened. So it's an exciting time, it's an exciting time to do the websites and the internet radio, because it's just happening like never before. It's a new phenomenon. We're trying to sort out everything, inner, outer, around and around, what it's all about. And yeah, it's great to be back on Red Ice Creations. I mean, we have a great history of friendship and doing the same kind of work and the same kind of, mission to awaken and enlighten and see how far we can push the envelope while we're at it. So it's great to be back.
Yeah, definitely. That's correct. And I should mention also for those that haven't heard Chris on the program before, that are potentially new listeners to Red Ice Creations Radio, that Chris is kind of the in a way, I guess, the founder of Red Ice Creations Radio too, because Chris was the one who asked me to begin with to start up a program on BBS Radio, as the channel was called. So if you have been enjoying Red Ice Creations Radio, you really should thank Chris for it too, because you're a little bit responsible for all this, right, Chris?
Well, yeah. I think I happen to be a facilitator of a universal phenomenon, because obviously what Red Ice Creations has become, I mean, it has such a life of its own and such an energy and such a strength to it. I think it was always coming. It always probably would have been one way or another. But I'm definitely glad to have been a part of it, as you were a part of bringing some of my writings out to the world early on. And the internet, it was such a cool thing how, we all felt called to do a similar thing and started discovering, wow, other people are doing this too. And next thing you know, we're off and running. And so I think we helped each other, and we're a part of the universal phenomenon that's happening out there on the internet and across the globe, of people connecting in new ways and transcending old ideas that no longer apply to the new paradigm.
Exactly, and everyone also is kind of, they're going into all of this and then branching out and exploring different topics, and it's nice to see that so many people can, connect in a way and yet kind of doing their own thing, so to speak,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great mirror of what the energy of the universe is. It's you're interconnected, and you're one in the sense that your expressions of the same life force, yet you're truly individual in every sense as well. You're both at the same time. You're completely free and individual, and you're also interconnected. And that's where when you feel that and you realize that both those are at play at once, then you're really starting to get some perspective and maybe even a little contentment that you can kick back and enjoy what's going on.
Exactly, definitely. I was going through some of the key notes, so to speak, that we talked about before the program, and I know that you wanted to talk a little bit about meditation and I guess different meditation techniques, and I think you called it meditation, the key to the kingdom. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, when I wrote those notes out, I was thinking about the audience for the show, and even more than thinking about, just kind of tuning in to the vibes of getting ready for a show. You open yourself up for ideas to come in, and just really felt it come into me to bring that topic up to again express. Like you say, you never know. There could be new audiences, and new people listening, new people tuning in, and we want to mention these topics again and again if we need to, because they are really important.
Right.
And that's part of the base, is to really make sure we understand things like meditation, which I believe some people might think when they hear the word meditation, they might think of the solitary monk with serious face doing maybe the Om meditation, but it seems like foreign. Like they even, it's funny, they even kind of mock it a little bit in our commercials on TV. They kind of make light of it, like it's kind of silly or something.
Sure.
But it's not just that. It's for me, the number one probably meditation technique that I've exercised and also been asked about is the technique of just watchfulness, being a watcher, or being present, being here now, and what that entails. That's not a small thing, and it's not a static thing. It continues to evolve and get deeper and deeper and more vast as more of yourself gets tuned into that present, and you recover all the parts of yourself that are scattered throughout space and time from this life and other lives and the whole road you've traveled, which is the beauty of the opportunity of being on the earth at this time. Is yes, there is suffering, and yes, and it's not necessarily an easy road, but we do have a chance to save ourselves essentially by becoming aware.
So how do you do it? What's the technique for you to just being an observer of it all?
Well, that's kind of the trick of it, which is kind of why it's sometimes you need these little tricks of explanation, like Zen cone, or some of the slap you across the face or something goofy like that, because it's more of a reflecting, like a mirror. It's not, I guess you could say that's a technique in a way, but it's almost a non-technique, where the whole point is that you just observe. And in some of the ways I describe it is, you don't interpret. You don't, because as soon as you interpret, you bring in your own mental matrix or your own predisposed lexicon. No matter how big or elaborate, you still bring it in and therefore reduce that which is. As much as possible, you want to just give it a blank look. You just look. And in one of the ways to do that is you don't have huge preference. You don't choose. You don't say this makes me happy and this makes me pissed off. You just take it, and it's just two happenings. You learn to ride the highs without getting too high and attached to that, and ride the lows without sinking into the maybe emotion and losing touch with yourself. You just watch. You keep space. You keep, that's another thing I will say sometimes, like space, and of course with that time, things don't need to be in a hurry. All these artificial constraints of time that we perceive get us very stressed out and thinking there are so many things that we have to achieve in such a short amount of time. We get so focused on the outer world, it fills all of everything, and so then that's when our stress level goes up, and maybe even our health suffers a little bit, especially if you continue to do that in the long run. So it's just one thing they say a lot in Zen is just slow things down, and that helps you slow things down as you approach the present moment. In the present moment, this is another thing. Let's see, get into the esoterics of it a bit as I see it or feel it.
Right.
That there is the body and the mind, and that which just occurs in that realm of the five senses looking outward.
Mm.
It is an external phenomenon, and it is what would you say, diminishing phenomenon. You reduce things to labels, essentially, by regarding them as data or information, which is essentially fine, but then it needs to be in that space of observation where you just realize that's a mechanism unto itself. That whole realm is simply a mechanism to understand. You observe it. You get space from all of it. You watch it. You watch it. You watch it. And one of the big things, that's why the Buddhist concept of non-doing, so that when you might have a trigger, you don't go along for the ride of the emotional trigger or the mental path. You just watch it. You watch it. You let it follow it out. You don't interfere. You're fine with it. You just watch it. And still there's space. The watcher who simply observes.
And to me, it sounds a little bit also like it's about finding kind of the balance between, I guess the emotion itself then, and also the observation, or I mean, to some extent, it's the coldness is maybe a wrong word, but a little bit, it's like not that you're detached from it, perhaps, but you can keep it a little bit at a distance, but then you don't want to get too much distance from it. Would you say that is a way to talk about this, to find the balance between that?
That's a good point to bring in about it. Because we are also being that observer and being free from having to abide essentially by the rules as dictated to us by our little bit of sphere of experience, the little bit of knowledge or data that we are a part of, but instead being kind of universal in your approach frees you to then really live in the moment. When you're in that moment, and when you're with somebody you care about, and your whole being is there, your attention is there, your heart is there, and you're able to connect with their soul because you're not so focused on the body,
right? Then
you're getting deeper into the human experience, not farther away from it. So just like the first thing we talked about, there kind of being two sides, where on the one hand it's very active, but on the other hand it's at rest as well, where yes, we're totally engaged in the experience of living and being with the people and being with the outer world, but we also have that inner space, which is our individuality.
Right.
That is not a choice or something we're deciding. That's something we're uncovering or remembering. There is that space, our individual nature, that is going to be ours, and nobody else will ever be in that space. No matter, you share completely maybe with friends or loved ones, but there's always going to be the space that's yours. That's a gift. That's not a bad thing. You come to terms with that space in yourself, which is truly yours and yours alone, and that's your individuality, and that is